Terry's made new name tags. If you paid your dues, you get a name tag. Terry says he's not making them if you don't pay your dues. But he did a really nice job. He spelled names right this time. That was a special request, though. But he did a really nice job doing it. We appreciate that, Terry.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There, we need to, I guess, get a little input if we want. Anybody thinks that we want to go with the swap meet like we did at Farm and Home last year. Basically, it really turned out pretty good. I think a lot of people wound up selling some stuff, getting rid of some items. We met a few people, so I think we got a member, I believe, if I recall from that. And it would be probably similar to what we did last year. Anybody, I guess, will make a motion that we do or don't do it, or
I move that we do it.
move that we do it. Okay.
I second it.
All right. Done. I'll try and make get a hold of people that let us do it last year. I know we had to have insurance last year, and I think you said we did just renew our insurance.
Well, I've got the, it's not renewed yet. I've got the
Okay.
paperwork that, you know how 2 months before it renews, they send you all this crap, and that's what they're sending me now.
Yeah, great. That's why I gave you your address.
Yeah, I noticed.
So last year, we recognized the fact that other stuff was going on that same weekend downtown.
That's true.
And in particular, the art fair, I think, right? We maybe want to move it downtown if we can,
I don't have a problem with that.
or someplace nearby.
With hours, I guess we still just do it the same type of thing for a day, during the day. We don't have to fulfill a certain spot requirement there, do we?
I don't know.
Yeah. Wonder how we get a hold of people there.
Did you get my link about different art festivals, that website?
I'll look for it, I don't remember.
Okay.
I did.
It would have been right after the board meeting.
Okay.
I think the message here is if you're aware of an event going on that would maybe dovetail well with a tool swap, let us know before the next board meeting so that we can get whatever it is pinned down and start locking it down so that we know.
Have time to.
Market it, have time to prepare everybody for it so that we can just move forward.
Yeah, get permission of where we need to go to
Right.
get that. We did this on May 18th last year. Go ahead, Bob.
It's May 17th and 18th downtown this year.
Okay, well,
So it's that same weekend.
all right. That really, the weather turned out pretty good that day for us.
Mhm.
And there probably would be a lot more people, I think. Probably a little more
I
congested, getting
think
things
you'd have
done.
more foot traffic walking. I mean, I'm not sure how it's set up. I'm assuming it's booths and stuff all around.
Oh,
that you
okay.
walk.
Yeah, around the old Capitol Square, isn't it? Typically, right in that area. Yeah. Yeah, Bob?
What would be the fee to get a booth?
I think that's something we'd have to find out.
Get back to
I might.
That's a good question, really.
I'll circle back.
Some vendors, I'm sure, probably do have to pay fees.
Us being a 501c3, I wonder if that would help us.
Well, can't hurt. Yep, throw that out there.
They might waive it
Yeah.
They might waive it or discount it.
and discount it, yeah.
Mhm.
Because we're allowed to do the picnic in Chatham at the park. And it's free, there's no charge.
Is there typically a charge for that?
Normally, there is a charge.
Okay.
I think it was $100, wasn't it? And then they refunded us once we showed them the paperwork.
That's really about all I've got. Norm wanted to speak on, he had some ideas for club members. You want to stand up if you would and tell me what you're thinking?
As I look around the room and see only like 18 members here tonight, it's pretty obvious that the group needs more members. When I first joined this club 22 years ago, they had 95 members. And it's pretty much gone downhill since then. And I think this 18 is the lowest I've seen in the last 3 or 4 years. So I wrote down some ideas for all of us to get more members in here. We once participated out at Lincoln Land at the junior college in a club day, they call it. All of the clubs on their campus have set up booths, and their goal is to get increased participation of their students in clubs. About 5 years ago, I and the officers arranged, I was teaching a class out there at the time, and we arranged for this club to have a booth out there. It's a one-day event, like on a Wednesday in February or March. And we have a big banner that we set up behind that table, and members were asked to bring in small wooden projects they had made, and the goal was to get those young kids, regardless of their major, into a club like this. I used to teach for 7 years night classes in my shop for people that signed up for a class out there. They paid me a fee. I provided the shop and all the facilities, and class was usually like 8 weeks, and it was very economical for them. But after doing it for 7 years and bringing a lot of those people into the club, probably 20 or 25 of them, the college decided to cancel my class because of fear of liability and injury in my shop. Even though in 7 years I had not had a single accident. I offered to get a $2 million policy on me and my shop, and they still said we can't do it. The board and the lawyers say no. But they did offer me a chance to teach that class on woodworking out in their facility. And I turned them down for 2 reasons. One, it wasn't worthwhile for me to drive out there, set up a class and close down a class that only lasted 2 hours for $25 an hour, which was my pay. So I walked away from it. However, if one of you wants to do it, they're probably receptive to doing that out there. But the other reason I turned it down was their tools are construction tools. They don't have a quality table saw, they don't have a big planer, they don't have a rotary sander and so on. But if you want to, if a board member here wants to call them, here are 2 phone numbers. And the person in charge is, the last name is Lamb, L-A-M-B. Phone number is 786-2355 and 787-2432. And the last name of the person in charge is Lamb, L-A-M-B. When I was treasurer of this club, probably 6 years ago, we thought it would help draw membership into the club by having a brochure that we could hand out to potentially interested people. And I paid the printing company $200 for 500 brochures, and I think we still have some left over. But I think the board ought to make a new brochure. It was discussed at a board meeting a year ago, and nothing has happened. We need to get the word out to the community somehow. Sometimes it's just noticing a guy. I was in Menards or Lowe's, and I saw a guy in the tool department, and we got talking. He knew nothing about this club. I talked him into coming to visit a meeting. He liked it, he joined, and the following year, he was the host shop for one of Mark Adams' associates to come to his shop. And the lesson was on various kinds of stains and finishes. This club needs to get some publicity. If they can't get on the radio or television, they can get in the newspaper somehow. They can get on some newspaper's calendar. The Illinois Times is a possibility. Anyhow, I brought in about 25 members to this club, and Augie is the most recent one. And this gentleman right here is the only other one that is currently a member out of those 25. It makes you wonder if we're not providing something that most people are interested in. And of those 25 people I brought in, at least 4 of them became presidents of this club. And Bob was one of them.
Okay.
Mike,
Yes.
back to that art fair thing.
Mhm.
I just looked it up, and it's a 2-day event. Okay, it's been going on for over 50 years. There's about 30,000 people that come through, and the contact information and stuff, I just gave that to Dave, so
Okay,
we should be checking into that.
all right. Dave, you want to try and give him a call?
Yes, I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got the
Sounds
information.
good.
Out of 30,000 people, we ought to get a couple members.
30,000, yeah. Of course, I imagine we'll have to show and sell some product, and not just show tools, but, you know.
Yeah. I think it'd be nice to have some things we made
Right.
to sell.
Right,
Not-
because it is an artist.
More so than used tools, I think.
No, they didn't have a price, it was a cost of admission or for a booth or anything, but.
Yeah, we can find that out, yeah. What? Okay. As I said, we got the new name tags for dues that are paid. Dues are due the first of the year for everybody, and Bob's gonna work out if you will land on a half a year or something, you know, he'll figure that out, what you owe, if you have any questions on that.
You only get half a name tag?
That's right.
Might give you the blank piece of wood.
Yeah, blank piece of wood,
First name only?
Yeah.
And we get to make up the first name.
Yeah. That works.
Okay.
Whatever it is, I've been called worse.
Most of us have.
I'm not gonna go there. I've got a presentation tonight, so at this point, I'm gonna start that.
All right.
Bob?
Anybody else gonna do a show and tell? I got Frank, Mike, and Paul. Anybody else wants to do a show and tell tonight?
I don't have show and tell, but I got a proposal for you.
Wanna go ahead with that?
That's fine.
Yeah,
Okay. I would like to propose a mallet swap.
yeah.
So I looked online, some other wood shops.
Just
wood
leave the
clubs-
back one on,
clubs
if you
have done
can.
this. So it's pretty simple. You leave tonight, you go home and
This
make a
one.
wooden mallet. And and you bring it back the next time, and then we just swap, and we'll draw numbers, and we'll figure out a way to distribute. So you leave with a mallet, you know, that you didn't make. And I'm willing, if you don't have the wood or the tools or the knowledge to do that, I'll provide all those. You can come to my shop, call me, and you can come to my shop, and we'll do it together. Most of you can do it at home, it's not that big of a deal. But if you just look up homemade wooden mallets, there's tons of ideas on how to do it. It's really simple, straightforward, doesn't take much wood at all. Like I said, I'll help you if you need help with any of, if you don't have the right tools, if you're a turner only and you don't have the tools to do the mount, just want to do a round, you can do a round mount, that'd be fine.
Let's do it next month.
I'm geared up to do whenever, so.
Want to do it next month?
Yeah, I'd like to do it.
Okay. All right, are there enough guys that want to do them?
I've got to make one.
You have to make one, but
Yeah.
you'll bring it that night, and
Yeah.
if you bring one, you'll leave with a different one.
Okay?
I'll give
No
you
matter
my phone
how bad
number if
mine
you want
is?
it. No matter how bad yours is, somebody else will be leaving with it.
Okay. Maybe I'll just try and make it myself then.
Well, and maybe we ought to make sure we send, for the members who aren't here, we send the email out.
Yeah, we'll send an email out so everybody kind of knows it's happening.
Okay, and you can put my number in that email. And I will tell you this, if you call my phone number and you're not stored in my phone, I'm not going to answer the first time.
Okay.
So just leave me, say, hey, I'm from the Woodbridge Club, and I'll call you right back.
All right.
I won't answer it the first time, that's just fine.
Understood.
I think we all do that anymore.
Yeah, a lot of them, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Got it? So I'm going to explain what I've been,
Okay.
when Terry's ready.
No. Yeah, so I'm just.
Stay on the X.
I know, I moved there for a minute. If it was a star, it'd be a lot easier.
How many letters do you want?
Just to kind of explain what I'm going to be talking about is a little bit of history in it. This here is a bell that was actually, it's in the St. Isidore Cemetery, Catholic Church Cemetery in Bethany, Illinois. That's where I grew up and went to church as a kid because my mom drugged me there. But this was originally a church in Dalton City. It was back in the church was in 1892 Catholic Church. Probably 30 or 40 years ago, they tore the church down, and the two churches were kept tight together. So they moved to the cemetery and built a brick and pedestal for it, and there's a picture of the whole thing here later. And so it sits there in the corner of the cemetery. And become kind of a family tradition of mine. My great grandfather, he came here from Ireland in around 1886, I believe, and he landed in Dalton City. I guess everybody heard, any are familiar with Dalton City or not, but now there's a train elevator and a couple bars and maybe 100 houses. But then there was a grain elevator and a horse farm. But everybody that landed in here from Ireland, a lot of people heard about Dalton City. They thought it was a big place. We got there, he had about 26 left in his pocket. He was only 16 years old. He wound up finding a job and built a farm there and belonged to the Catholic Church and built both the churches. And he's buried in the cemetery. My grandfather's son and family, my parents are buried in the cemetery. And anytime there's an event there, we go visit. We walk over and we pull on this wheel and ring the bell. It's just something our family's done, and we've been doing it for 20 years probably. And it got to the point where I went there about 3 years ago and was visiting my parents just there for a drive-through, and walked up and rang the bell, and it went like this, the wheel did, and it was about to rot in two, ready to fall off. So I approached the keeper of the cemetery and asked him, and he said, well, he had to go to the Historical Society to get it approved, and blah, blah, blah. Well, a year or two passed, probably 2 years passed, he didn't, well, I told him, I said that I would rebuild it, you know, but he had to get it approved. And a couple of years passed, and he said he never heard back from me. He said, go ahead and do it. So I thought, well, I better go take another look. I got to looking a little closer and figured out that it weighs probably 800 pounds. I don't know the whole thing does. The bolts in it are 150 years old. So I got my brother involved. He's much more experienced. He has a lifelong woodworking under his belt, and he actually lives in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. And we talked, and he decided he would help me. At that, I think the first thing we did was we tried to figure out what kind of wood to use, and then I talked to Ralph, and actually he came up with the wood for an idea for us to use white oak, and I got it from his mill, and cut it into pieces that would fit in my vehicle, and I drove and spent about 3 days at my brother's house in Wisconsin. He and I put it together. And here again, let's see, there's that's really kind of the history of how this got started. But if you go to the next picture, the spokes were broken. It's kind of hard to tell in these pictures, but there's several places that the spokes were actually broken. And so go out on the next one. Like there at the end. Did you pass one maybe? I'll go back the other way. There. This is a look at it. It was up in the steeple of the church, and it had it was a rope trough. This one was actually made out of poplar. We took it apart, and somehow or other it lasted. We can only assume that it was the original one, you know, in the neighborhood of 140, 150 years. But you know, most of that was inside the steeple of the church. We were kind of surprised that that's what it was. When we pulled it apart, you could still see the green on the inside of where the air had not gotten to it. A couple more broken spokes. Go ahead to the next one. So what I did was, Dan lived in Wisconsin. I called up and he said, well, take some measurements. So I went out there and measured twice, 2 trips out there, actually, because I forgot some things. And he took my measurements, and we decided to cut the old wheel in half to get it off, because it was basically about to fall apart anyway. I gave him the dimensions, and he drew it all out on a piece of tarmac, and had it all laid out, and we decided to figure out how to create the pieces to make the circle. Go ahead to the next picture. And whenever I went up there with the wheel and laid it on there, it fit exactly. I think it's more his drawing than my measurements. Here again, I have to give a lot of credit to him. He is really through some quality effects and ways to do things in this. Go ahead to the next picture. That's the stack of wood it took to make that wheel. It was, we didn't have a way to resaw it. We basically planed everything. We had a planer, so we planed everything to the thickness. We had there's 3 layers. The inside layer, and then the 2 outside layers. So we created an octagon, the 8 pieces, and first of all, we cut, go ahead to the next picture, I believe, yeah. We cut the pieces in approximate lengths, and then we planed it, because there was just a lot of curves and hole bores, and the shorter pieces they planed easier. We had to take quite a bit of wood off. The outside pieces were just a ½ inch thick, and the inside, the rope track was about 1.25 inches, I think thick. So, no, just an inch. It was right at an inch because I think the wood was just right at about a little less than 5/4, I think. But these are all pieces here. Some of them have the angles cut. We're just starting to cut the angles, and they've been planed to thicknesses. Go ahead to the next picture. We laid it all out on the table, and basically glued. We started with just one of the outside layers, and we laid it out on the Tarvac to get all the angles cut. And we glued, and we used pocket screws to connect the pieces together. And keep this in mind as we are going to the next picture. As we're getting ready to take this out and put it back on, we had to put it on in 2 pieces. So we had to, everything that we created, we had to figure out a spot to leave open so we could fit it around the stand and the
Axle.
the axle to be able to bolt it on. Thank you. So this is our first outside layer here, and this is all put together. And what we did was, I can't remember actually, but in this one we left one of these pieces loose. Everything else was all screwed and glued. So we had to start planning around. I don't know if you can see or not, but the drawing of this is laid out on the drawing, and this here showed us how to cut our pieces. Go on to the next one here. Okay, this is our what we call it, our pre-CNC radius cutter. I had another video. He made we had this screwed and anchored to the table, and this is basically mounted on a center bolt. Our router was mounted to the end of the board here, and it was centered. And we just we cut the edges off to make our circle. We started on the inside. It took about 3 passes to get it cut through the wood, and did the inside and the outside. And we did. And here again, each one of these had to have it was all put together, except for one piece, and we staggered. And we'll show pictures of how it was staggered later. So when we put it together completely together, it still had an opening, so we could get it on the axle. And I had another video here, but it didn't work. Before we did this, he built a miniature one about this big, and he did the whole process of the 8 sides out of a little one, and tested the router trick on it. And quite honestly, it worked amazingly. The fit was incredible the way it wound up. Go on to the next picture here. Well, if you go back to the next one, last one, it's actually running it. Is that all? No, there.
Which one do you want?
This
Want
one.
that one? Okay.
Yeah, it's actually running there. I'm following him along with a back and shop back because it made quite a bit of a test. We spent pretty much a day doing all 3 layers of this, by getting them laid out, finish one, get the other one laid out, screw together, and finish it, getting the circles cut. Okay, go on to the next one. This here is the piece that we left, we took out. Each of these pieces, each layer is staggered, so none of the joints line up. And then I think this is how we got it on the wheel, actually, on the bell. Okay, go on to the next one. That's it there again. You see how this is
Slides right in there, huh?
Yeah, but it's kind of slides all together, and everything else is completely screwed and glued. This is completely screwed and glued, and we had to, every place we didn't have it, we had to be careful not to get any glue or anything on there, but we had to glue right up to the ends. So it took a little bit of we were kind of proud of ourselves when it fit together, quite honestly.
Very fun project.
Yeah. They go on. This is built really exactly like the other one, only we changed out the spokes to where it was about 1 inch by 1.25 inch spoke, and that's what went into the original wheel. So it was, we beefed them up to where this piece here actually goes into the wheel, so you get a lot more surface there to grab it.
That'll last longer, huh?
Yeah, it should. Well, if it's outside for the next 150, I guess I don't care. I think it's good. That's the idea. Okay, go on to the next one. This is just some of our clamping methods of our glue and stuff and our table setup. There's a lot of clamps. I think there's another picture of more clamps. This is in the process of actually gluing and screwing the wheel. Everything, the bottom, called one side, the middle is all glued and screwed together. The top layer is actually about just 90% glued. We did use Gorilla wood glue, exterior wood glue. It's something that he's used a lot of, and it's so far it's working pretty good. Yeah. Go on to the next one. This is basically us placing the spokes and lining up the insides, keeping everything fitted. Piece here where you can tell the inside was screwed down to the bottom. Okay, go ahead. Just more putting pieces together. We weren't really sure how long it would take. We figured it'd take a couple days, 2 or 3 days, and it did. It took us about 3 full shop days, not long days, but it was, by the time we had 6 or 8 hours each day, we were done. So, go ahead. There's a swab of glue laid out. A lot of glue. We really coated it up, and then this would be actually just putting everything was glued together there and screwed. That's getting ready to put the top of it on. Okay, go ahead. There's our. That was our final glue there at the shop, and this here is the area right here that was yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure this spoke here.
Needed a couple more clamps.
Well, yeah. Actually, we did that at the end of the day. It sat there overnight before we took the clamps off. Go ahead. That's him fitting that piece in again there. I think we already seen this picture. Go ahead. We had all these pieces labeled. Everything was labeled as we built it. We first laid it out on the inside, so we got some of our artwork on the inside of this here too. We were going to leave our signature in there somewhere, but we didn't do that. Okay, this here is really pretty close to the finished product after the glue was set, and this clamp here is actually holding in the slotted piece.
What's in the bag in the middle?
That black cat.
Yeah, it looks like a cat, but
It's not. I don't know. I don't recall a black cat there. Move on. Okay. This is That's holding the old one and the new one. Give you a little story about my brother Dan. If you can see these stickers on the wall, he's a marathon runner. He's 63 years old. He still runs marathons. His whole garage walls covered with tags. He's always run in the top 10% of any race he's ever run in. Boston Marathon. I don't know how many times he's done a Boston Marathon, but he's done some that's been quite a bit tougher than that. He's done a couple of 100-mile runs and stuff like that. We always called him Animal. But he's an awesome athlete. He's an incredible athlete. He's done a lot, and he's spent a life of woodworking too. He's actually just retired. This is one of the first projects he did. He set up his garage. This is really the first project he did after retirement. Was this here? Right. Let's see the next picture here. All right, this is us, and this is my other brother Jim. He was there that day. He lives kind of down the area. This is us gluing in the last piece as we put this piece in there. I don't have pictures, but after we glued that, we left and went to Krekel's and had hamburgers.
So the
Well,
last
to
piece
set up-
was the center hub?
Pardon?
Was the last piece that center hub?
What was it, the extra piece here? Yeah, the slide-in piece. Yeah, we had to fit it around the base and around the axle, and we got all the three legs bolted in, and then we drilled it on site, and then we fit that piece in and glued it in, and then there's no screws in that. That's all glued.
Do you want the previous one that we jumped over?
Yeah. We just used some stainless steel carriage bolts, and this just kind of a close up of the axle itself. It looked a little better than the last one did. The bolts we took off were surprisingly, we thought, boy, these are going to be tough. I think that maybe they were put together with some kind of tar or grease or something, because they really looked rough. But wrenched to them, they came right off. It was unbelievable. But, that's finished product there. We used a Sikens, what's it called? Cetol alkyd oil. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. It's an exterior oil. They use it's like a varnish. They use it on log cabins in Wisconsin. It's a heavy duty exterior finish. I wish that was a better picture. It's got a beautiful finish on it. We thought about not finishing it, but we couldn't resist. He actually, he did the finish after I left, because it took several days of waiting in between coats. No, I take that back. He only put one coat on it, as a matter of fact. So apparently you only use one coat of this. You don't double coat it.
Wow. How big a diameter is that?
It's about 40 inches, I think, 42 inches.
Well, it's huge there, but obviously it's
Yeah.
a picture.
What holds up the other end? Is there a cast iron bracket?
The bell itself, it sits on the axle. There's just a mount on both sides. There's another picture. Go to the next one here, might show better. Yeah. See how the two sits on two A-frames with the shaft, and then just a pivot on both sides.
Now that you've done it, could you do it quicker, the second one?
Maybe a little bit. Yeah, probably so, because we spent quite a bit of time mulling. We had some ideas, but
First of everything is always hard.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then this is the stand they built. Go ahead and go to the next picture. And this kind of what, from the back side, this is a cemetery out here. It kind of looks over that.
This is in Wisconsin, is that right?
No, this is in Bethany, Illinois.
Oh,
Yeah, my brother lives in Wisconsin. We did the work up there.
He came down to.
He came down to help me install it, yeah.
So the part that you replaced does not bear any weight itself?
The wood,
Yeah.
the wheel, no, it probably weighs 30 pounds.
But it doesn't support the bell at all.
No,
It's just for.
It's just for turning it. It's sitting on They were bearings at one point. It's a shaft that sits in a couple pockets. They're really quite worn from all the movement. And then I think, is there another one? Picture? Yeah, that's me and my brother Dan.
Where was the bell cast at?
St. Louis. Yeah, well, yeah, it was I think I got the name of the company here. St. Louis, Missouri. You know, I don't have the name. I forget what the name of it was, but it was actually stamped in 1892. It's on the bell itself.
Nice deep tone to it.
Yeah, when you ring the bell, you want to cover up your ears. You want to walk away fast.
Really?
Oh yeah, and you got to pull up pretty hard.
Did you say that weighed 800 pounds?
No, well, I would say the whole thing. These here frames are just massive cast steel, and
Brass bell, I guess.
and then the bell itself it's a stout bell. It's heavy. Yeah, I'm only guessing that, but it's an estimate.
Brass?
Yeah, I would say brass. Yes. Was that it?
Yep.
Okay. And then I do want to thank Ralph for suggesting the wood and coming up with the wood. It turned out really turned out nice. You need to start selling your wood for more money too.
Bring more money.
Well, he tried to buy the white oak up there locally, and it was unbelievable what they wanted for it. But no, I thought you were very fair. You're about right. You're about right.
Is he a big tipper, Ralph?
Do what now?
Is he a big tipper?
Yeah, he has 7th course and the 7th race.
But that was my most recent project here. The mountain.
Very good.
Thank you. Bob, do you have?
We're gonna do the show and tell.
Okay.
So we'll go with Frank first.
Okay.
All right.
You're on deck.
All right. So,
Oh, he doesn't have to stand on the X. We did use a Craig pocket jig too.
oh, okay. So, for those of you that aren't from the olden days, this is a Craig 2000. I bought it probably about 2001, 2002 or so. It's still a fixture that I use in my shop, maybe about 3 or 4 times a year. You know, just for very specific, utility tasks to get something done. But it is part of my entire toolkit. Yes, you do have to manually adjust the heights for different sizes and other things. You got to manually adjust the clamp to be able to deal with different thicknesses of materials, that sort of stuff. And I do have, I think it's the 520 or something like that, which is the one that you can put in weird places and drill to, I do use that, but this is still the one that I use when I need to bring my wood to the tool rather than my tool to the wood. But there's one major flaw as far as I'm concerned with this particular tool, and that is, where's the dust collection? Because trust me, when I use it, there's sawdust and there's chips and there's everything all over the place. Because at this point, Craig hadn't figured out, oh yeah, dust collection, that might be useful. And I sat there and I pondered for a while, should I replace that? Or with a new one, with, I think it's what, the 720 or the 740 or something like that, which is their current modern equivalent to this. Or should I try to figure out a way to get dust collection on it? Well, one of the things that I do have is I have a 3D printer. So I'm able to generate new things. I beat myself up for about a year or so. Finally got Fusion 360 figured out to be able to work with it and to be able to extract and make different shapes and other things. Let's see which one. This would have been the first one. So, and I'll pass these around. This was my first attempt. And, or let's see, hold on, look and see. No, this is my first attempt. This has the opening for a Festool vac, which is what I have in my main shop. And you'll see that it has two little holes in it to allow for screws to go in. So there's the first one. The second iteration, as you learned the process a little bit better, is I needed a little catch right here to be able to have something to hook onto this ledge so that I was always coming down in the same spot each time. So there's second iteration right there. Third iteration, I realized I needed two ledges, and they needed to be bigger than what the original one was. And you'll also see here that I've included the brass screws in it, which actually, the only modification that I had to make to this to get it to work, and I'm going to leave the Craig 2000 up here, but if you want to, you can come up and look. I drilled two additional holes. So the process basically was spent, probably about 3 hours using Fusion 360 to design the part, print out the part, take a tap out for the screws so that they would have something to nice and cleanly go in and through, and then to drill the two little holes on the side so that I would actually have something to be able to connect up to. So I'll pass that one around too. That's my show and tell. So you can build adapters and other things. I could have even built that probably with plywood and maybe like one block of wood. So you don't have to use a 3D printer to do this kind of stuff. It's just whatever the tool is in your shop, use the best tool that you can for that particular job, whatever you're most comfortable with. So, okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Very
That's
good.
the old one.
Yeah, well, this is the very first one after the aluminum Craig jigs. That's the first one that they did out of plastic.
Frank,
Yeah,
so I have an original metal one
okay.
that I bought directly from Craig Sommerfeld.
Oh, okay.
His hand to mine.
Uh-huh,
He was at, anybody ever used to go to the St. Louis woodworking shows when it was down there?
okay,
Yeah, in 90 or 91, I think, something like
Okay.
that.
yeah.
Yeah, and I use it all the time.
Mhm.
It's mounted, much like yours, but I mounted it on a thing with feet on both sides like you have, but it's on I don't know, it's 4 inches tall, so it lifts up and I can put screws and I'll drill bits and everything inside and they latch on both sides.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And for that matter, that plywood's also from like 2001. I've never remounted it on anything
Yeah.
because I've never had a need to, it's just there, so.
Did you bring that last year?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Did you apply for a patent?
I didn't apply for a patent, although I think if you look at the last one, it has, I think I put something like FR Tool Works on it or something like that. So if anybody, and then I put it out there publicly available for people to use on their own 3D printers. So they could remove the lettering off of it, but most of the people that would just want to print it, yeah, whatever. So.
That's a nifty idea.
I, like most woodworkers, have a project been laying around my shop. I started probably 2 years ago. Not exactly when. But it's a federal card table. They call it a demi-limb table. So it's half round, but it opens to a full round. The top is in two pieces. One hinges and folds on top of the other. So it's a half round table you can push up against the wall. It's got 4 legs, 2 at the back and 2 spaced evenly towards the front. And federal furniture from, I guess, early 1800s, maybe late 1700s. It was the era where they did a lot of decorating, or what they called embellishments, inlay work. And if anybody went to Eric Woolbright's house, he had open shop early last year.
Yeah.
He's a master at this stuff. So I had started the table, and after going to his place, I leaned on him for a little bit of advice and some ideas on how to pursue it. And actually, he lent me all the tools to do the inlay work. So this part of the leg's called pilaster, and the inlay in there is one that I made up out of sycamore, quarter-sawn sycamore, some black dyed poplar, I believe it is. Got that from there. And then some cherry around the outside of it. Because the tops that I got made, I had some nice wide 18-inch cherry boards I've been holding on to for a long time. So each top is just one, each half is just one piece out of cherry. It's not what, typically, if this was truly federal, it would probably be all made out of mahogany. That's what they use a lot of. And but I just went with walnut. For the bottom half, there's a half-round apron that we made. Then, and I made two of them because you might remember his table he brought in. You lay it up in it's kind of like the bell, pieces like that, but just with a half-round, and you stack them and stagger them and glue them up. And then you cut your round out of it, round it out, very similar to the bell concept. So there's a lot of different embellishments that they do on federal furniture, and this is just a couple of them. Putting a foot on is not uncommon. So that's plain down and then veneered, and I went with cherry just because the top's going to be cherry. And then the banding is also sycamore with black stained poplar, I think you said it was. The banding I got from Eric too. He had a bunch of it around the shop, so I didn't have to make that. And then put banding at the top. This here will intersect the half-round apron, and this banding will continue on around the bottom of it. So this is what I've been messing with. Finally got back to it after a couple of years. It looks like maybe I'll be finished. And this is just a sample leg, so there's some misalignments here there, but just learning process. But it didn't come out too bad. I'll pass that around, and along with it, so those, as this table opens up, it doesn't have anything to land on except for the fact that those two back legs that would be against the wall as it normally sits are on a hinged leaf. There's two of these wooden hinges. So one leg hooked to the one side and then one on the other. And this hinge is just the first attempt I made at it. Came out pretty good. It actually went better than on the main project, but we got it squared away too. So this is just a wooden hinge that you cut out. You start cutting. You lay out the spacing, cut it with dados, and then the rest of it is kind of handwork. So it's kind of neat. Anyway, that's what I've been up to lately, and I'm not sure when the table will be done, but I hope to keep on now.
Is that the hinge in the middle of the top? Is that what that is?
No, it's the hinge, the end leg. If you picture a half circle on the corners, we'll call it.
Mhm.
There's a leg on each one, and each of those legs is on a hinge like that. It's mounted not in the center, but there's about 6-7 inches in between where they pivot at,
Mhm.
and they swing out. And you open up the top, and it opens up.
Okay,
onto those
all right.
legs.
Yep.
It's a full round card table.
All right, I see.
I think so. Yeah, unless there's any questions. Yeah.
Is that something we could see when you get done?
Oh, yeah, I hope to bring it in. It shouldn't be that heavy or cumbersome.
Sounds neat.
Yeah.
So this was my Saturday afternoon. It's warm. I can be in the garage project. I wanted something that was kind of practical, so it's a hat rack for one of my sons. You basically just take the hat, put it in like that, so you get a bunch of them. I'm
Yeah.
new into woodworking, just really kind of started last year or two. And so this was kind of a good project for me to learn some of the different tools and stuff like that. Obviously used a miter saw and my table saw to get some squares, some edges, since I don't have a joiner. Found out that a Forstner bit is a real pain in the butt when you're using the hand drill. Also makes a heck of a mess that the wife will notice 2 days later, even though you thought you swept everything up. So it's pretty easy to, it's just a piece of 1x6. I squared off one edge, went in 2 inches, drew a line, and then the main holes are every 3.5 inches. I left a little room down here so if they want to hang a hook or something, so if they've got like a boonie cap or something else that they want to hang, they can have that. Learned a couple things I want to work on. Did get a little bit of blowout more from the Forstner bit than the router. The router seemed to do pretty good, but the Forstner bit, this one is actually pretty good. I made 2 of these. My son picked his up the other day, and it had a little bit more blowout, so got to work on that. May have been just cheap Forstner bits. I bought a cheap pack at Christmas. And that's about it.
I made almost the exact same thing for my garage.
Yeah, I would probably end up making
for
one
doing
for
the
my-
shovels and the rakes. and
Oh,
all
yeah,
that stuff.
yeah. That's a good
But
idea.
the same exact concept.
Okay.
I have a question.
So, there.
Paul?
Yeah.
Try to take myself, what's the booty cap?
A booty cap, that's the
Oh,
ones,
Dana booty? No.
no, they're the canvas caps. They got.
Seem like Marines.
They're like, yeah, like the Marines wear them, and they have a little string that goes underneath.
Full rim.
No,
Yeah.
Rim all the way around.
Yeah.
3-inch rim all the way around.
So-
Did you come up with the idea?
Yeah, where'd you get, come
I
up with the idea?
saw it as I was just sitting there one night looking for projects on YouTube, and I
Yep.
saw it. There's 3 or 4 of them that are like that, and I just wrote a couple of notes down and then said, okay, let's give this a shot. So
I like that, that's neat.
Well, at first I thought it was a clamp rack.
Yeah.
But I thought when I first seen
I'm
it-
thinking about a clamp rack.
Could be.
So.
Yeah.
See, I was gonna put clamps on.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a whole bunch of those on
Now
mine.
you guys got me thinking. I gotta come up with a way to do it.
No, I got a wall full of them. Clamps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Project like that is one of those things that you can do on Etsy real good because you do the same project, just have different names of it.
Yeah.
different places.
Floats. You can find this around using
Never get it to do that. when I
Okay.
want it to.
I think you're up, Bob.
Okay,
If your
Terry?
keys,
Terry?
Okay. I want to go through the schedule for this year. We've had some changes, obviously with January, our meeting was canceled due to the weather. We moved a few things around. Next month, we're going to have Ben is going to do a hackberry table. He's going to do a slight presentation on that. On April the 7th, we have Dan Schwenk. He owns in Sterling, Illinois, this company called Red Rose Reproductions, and he was such a good craftsman and designer that Lee Nielsen gave him their line of wooden floats to build for them. He's now doing it on his own. And so he's going to come and talk to us about how to use wooden floats and also this one device called the Sector. It's some kind of a layout tool.
Oh, yeah.
That, you're familiar with that? He sells that. So I have 2 floats right here. I'm going to pass them around that we can kind of get an idea what they are. These are really good for mortise and tenon joinery. And I think you mentioned too.
The side, yeah, I use them for side escapement planes, so the hand planes.
Yeah. So it's good. It's a very useful tool to use. It's like a file on steroids. And he actually met Steve Latta. I don't know where they met, but Steve Latta was so impressed after talking to Dan, he told Mark Adams, you need to have him teach at the school. and he'll be teaching a weekend class this year at Mark Adams.
On making them,
What's that?
on making floats or something?
I'm not sure what it is, but it's in the catalog. We got Bill is going to talk to us about end tables
One.
in June 4. One?
I think just one, yeah.
Okay, just one. Okay.
You're not gonna do two?
We got you down for two,
Yeah,
so.
I thought there was 2 requirements, so. And then Curtis is he's gonna take another class of Mark Adams. He's gonna come back and share what he learned, the key learnings from that class. I was able to call Freud Tools about a month ago, and we have Jim Litwicky coming in to talk to us about sandpaper. Is there anything else you want him to talk about when he comes from the Freud line? Yes.
I was studying this project and maybe missed it, but is there a March program?
We have a March presenter up here,
I see April, but not March.
Ben Reynolds.
It was,
He was up there, Ben Reynolds, in a
I
hackberry table.
didn't see it, I was studying this project, what was it?
Ben Reynolds and a hackberry table. Okay. Eric Woolbright's going to be presenting later on in June. We got Curtis in August, Jim Litwicky from Freud Tools, and then the festival guy was supposed to come in January. That was canceled because of the snow, the weather. And I'm able to get him to come back October 6th. Talk about what we wanted to talk about. Yes.
so is the Freud Tools, is that the same as the saw blades?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want him to talk about the saw blades?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And we do need some presenters for November. If somebody would volunteer for that, that would be great. And somebody else had a question. Bob?
You had asked me a long time ago about having an open shop for some guy to come in the summer, is that?
We are waiting to hear back from
Okay.
Michael Fortune.
Okay,
He agreed to come here for a weekend,
okay.
and he gave me the ability to go into his slide decks. He has, I think, 20 of them, different subjects he can do, that he can talk about. And I think one thing we liked was the jigs, making jigs. He could do like a one-day session on bandsaws.
That'd be cool.
So he's really good with the bandsaw. He's an expert at it.
That's what I'd like to see.
But he has a lot of travel this year. He's going to Japan, he's going to Australia. And so I'm waiting for his schedule to be more concrete.
It's a lot closer here.
Yeah. Well, he probably is going to hit us on the way to Mark Adams or on the way back from Mark Adams. Then he has a client in Chicago, so he could do all 3 in a loop over a period of 2 or 3 weeks with it. But that would be great because he's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
That guy can make a jig for anything. He's excellent. So, but I'm waiting for him to firm up all of his travel plans, and that would be a weekend sometime. That would be
Okay.
using your shop with it. Yes.
Roger, Midwest Missions, he would like to, and he's got a couple other groups.
Okay.
He'd like that.
Okay.
He said he's going to get a hold of you.
All right. Yeah, they can come. Okay. So, any questions at all? Any ideas on the schedule?
Yeah, I'm thinking March, actually possibly February for my open shop. I'm just thinking my wife, she's gonna be gone 2 different times and might probably do it when she's not.
In March?
March and February might also work,
Okay.
but that's coming right up, so that's March.
Okay. Yeah, let me know.
Last part of March.
Let me know, and then we'll push it out to everybody then.
All right.
And then pick a topic.
Yeah.
So these tools being passed around, those are wooden floats?
They're called wooden floats.
What- Do you know anything about the naming of that, or why are they?
Well, I don't. You guys?
I've used them.
They've been around a long
Yeah,
time.
oh, yeah.
That's all I know.
Like a file to,
Yeah, they're like a file on steroids, but if
That's
you're
a
doing,
heavy-duty
if you're
rasp.
doing like
Yeah,
the
that's what I was thinking.
10
Rasp.
I prefer to think about them as a really wide saw blade.
yeah,
Not, it's not thin curve, so you're not gonna cut down fast, but
Yeah.
It's
that's
gonna
what you're
take it
essentially
down.
doing, is you're using a saw blade
yeah.
to remove material.
If you're gonna do mortise and tenon joinery, these are really excellent for cutting down on the tenon to size. And then you can also do it to adjust the mortise too. Yeah. There's different sizes and different shapes. So,
Float.
Yeah.
it's called a float.
Found
Yeah.
spelling.
You got a wooden float and you got a strawberry float.
A cement float.
But I've used them and they are, there's a little bit of a learning curve, not much, but they're pretty powerful.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
When he shows up, make sure you get root beer from over there to add to the float, okay? So,
Shave off of more than that, way more than a drink, that's something.
This has really good control.
that's the one that you're supposed to say, that you, okay, you see it, so, yeah.
Is this on the website that you?
What's that?
Is this on the website?
No, I just made it up.
Okay.
Okay, I'm done. So,
If it's in a rural area or in a small city, to just use what was available,
Yeah.
which would have been Walnut. So,
okay. So that's it. Anything you want to
No,
add?
do we have presentations for, well laid out?
Yeah. We do need somebody,
This is November?
November is pretty well wide open.
And we want to try doing show and tells every meeting, right?
Yeah.
I think they're really not good at that.
Except when we have an outside presenter.
Right.
Then we typically don't do them then. Yeah.
So next month, bring mallet.
Bring them out this month.
Yeah, make them out.
Yep, go home and make them out.
That's right.
You help call me.
Okay.
That would be the.
Bring them out for next month.
like, I can get twice.
Can we bring mallet to next month's meeting?
Yeah.
That's it.
We could. Anybody else have anything else they want to bring up? Yeah.
Just real quick, if there, anybody a wood turner, I'd like to talk to you after the meeting. Anybody
Yeah.
Turner, okay. Can I talk to you for a minute?
That's incredible, isn't it?
That's pretty neat.
I get you to clean out the inside of my yard.
Okay, something
That's where you
else.
go.
Yeah.
I do the outside, the inside, I
Okay, I'm gonna call adjourn the meeting then.
Okay.
Have a visit.
We're done?